This video is brought to you by the FMB Shop, where you can find some of the best Scale 400 models. Find the link in the video description below. There are models where you don't expect much and are still left disappointed, and then there are models where you don't expect much, but the more time you spend with it, the more exciting it gets. Which of the two options we have here in front of us, we'll find out right after the drop. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A330-900NEO of Virgin Atlantic. At the front of the box we have a lovely schematic or rendition of the aircraft. We have the Virgin branding, the Airbus branding, all useful information. The backside of the box is quite a bit more, well, simple. We simply just have the Virgin branding. Not quite as exciting as, for example, the boxes from JC Wings, but I still think the Aviation 400 box design overall is pretty much alright. I mean, it's definitely much better than what Herpa produces these days. And before we get any further into today's review, it is worth mentioning that this aircraft model does come with a stand, a simple plastic stand, but nonetheless it does its job. And here she is, the Airbus A330-900NEO in the current standard livery of Virgin Atlantic. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, sometimes you have models which just end up being disappointing, and then you have models which the more time you spend with them just get more and more exciting. And we need to figure out what this aircraft model is. Is it the disappointment or is it the excitement? And the best way to find out is simply by taking a closer look at it, starting off with the tail section, where we on the vertical stabilizer have the wonderful Virgin branding. I love this red color that they're using. It really does look brilliant. On top of the stabilizer we then also find the last two letters of the registration code. On the fuselage we then find the full registration code of the aircraft. Towards the very tail of the aircraft we also have some detailing around the APU exhaust, and we should also not omit this lovely print we find underneath the tail. Then if we move to the front of the aircraft, we can see across the fuselage the writing of Virgin Atlantic. We of course also find a plethora of small static ports and other hatches, as well as the aircraft type specification. Next to the also quite a lovely detailed cabin door, we then find the writing of Britain's flag carrier, underneath which we normally have like a pin-up girl with the Union Jack. It does appear to be a man in this case. And underneath that we find the name of the aircraft. The cockpit section itself then has, of course, the typical neo black mask of Airbus with the cockpit windows, but I can't really make out the window wipers, which is a little bit disappointing. But what is great is actually we do have like a circular marking around the radome. It's barely visible, but it is there, trust me on that. Moving on to the engine nacelles, here we again find this wonderful red color that Virgin Atlantic uses in their branding. We have the silver leading edge, we have some safety markings, the Rolls-Royce branding as well of the engines. We have lots of small prints also on the underside of the engine nacelles. Overall a very, very good look. Also the physical detailing of these engines is very nice, especially here from the front. Very nice. You can see the engine fan blades and even look through the engines. Very cool. From the engines we can move on to the wings, which we should also take a closer look at, starting off with the top side. Here we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out quite nicely, although they're a little bit drowned away by the grey painting, but we do have some different shades of grey for additional detailing. We have the markings as to where to walk on the wings, not just specified in a line but also in writing. Very good. Also the underside of the wings has some lovely physical detailing, and we find the full registration code of the aircraft. And then of course we also have these lovely rounded winglets on the A330NEO. My personal highlight, however, is the addition of the landing lights. Now before we take a look at the remaining details, there is a quick message from our sponsor today. Are you looking for new Scale 400 models? Then look no further. The FMB Shop has got you covered. With NG models, JC Wings and Gemini jets, the FMB Shop has got some of the best models in the business. And even better, with day one discounts, pre-order discounts, and every now and then special offers, and with what I like to call prices like in the good old days, the FMB Shop website and Instagram account are always worth a look. They do of course also have Scale 500 and 200 on offer. And don't forget, Christmas is just around the corner, so find your next favorite aircraft model or the best Christmas present of this year by following the links in the video description below. When we then take a look at the landing gear, we can see Aviation 400 has actually done a pretty decent job with that. We have different colors for the different parts of the landing gear. We have wheel caps, we have lovely prints on the front landing gear. The landing gear is made out of metal, but the tires of course out of plastic and can roll, although not quite as nicely as with other manufacturers, but there is a reason for that which we will dig into right now. Because this aircraft model has the absolutely awesome feature that you can remove the landing gear. Now they're using a magnet system. It's basically the same as we have seen with the JC Wings in scale 200, but they have now replicated it in scale 400, and it is just fantastic. The landing gears can be simply removed or been put on, so you can display this aircraft model on the stand that is included with this aircraft model, either with or without landing gear. The only drawback I see here is that when you display the aircraft model without landing gear, you are basically having these kind of holes in the wings or in the fuselage at the front. With JC Wings in scale 200, you got some plates as well that you could fit in there, so it had a really nice look to it. We are missing them here with Aviation 400, but I still think this is a really awesome and bold move from Aviation 400 and overall pulled off really nicely. And since we're already looking at the belly of the aircraft, we should also quickly mention the Virgin Atlantic branding, as well as lovely prints of the aircraft here also with the landing gear. We have a hole in the fuselage, but as mentioned, there is a stand included. And of course, we also have some physical antennas here on the belly of the aircraft. But also when we then look on top of the fuselage, we can see a lovely array of antennas and sat domes, really quite lovely. Something I especially like about this aircraft model is that they have replicated another detail that we have seen with JC Wings in scale 200. Aviation 400 has added beacons, and not in a print, but actually as a physical detailing. They've actually added like this tiny little red plastic piece which reflects, so depending on where the light comes from, you can get like a little kind of, beacon light. It looks really, really awesome, and I love that they have replicated this now in scale 400. And then finally, we should also not forget to mention that we do of course also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A330-900NEO in the current standard livery of Virgin Atlantic from Aviation 400 in scale 400. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Now, to answer my question from the beginning of the video, for me this is very much a model which I didn't have much expectations for, but has really surprised me. The more time I spend with it, the more I discover, the more I like the aircraft model. Aviation 400 has done a fantastic job replicating the Virgin Atlantic livery, and it is especially worth noting given how many issues many other manufacturers nowadays have in actually getting the right colors on the aircraft models. Aviation 400 is spot on with the Virgin Atlantic livery. Yes, the rolling wheel function of the aircraft model isn't quite working because of the landing gear being removable, but the fact that we actually have this magnet system where we are able to remove or place the landing gear on the aircraft model like we've seen with JC Wings in scale 200 but now have it in scale 400, I think is a bold move, but they've pulled it off very nicely. And I think the trade-off of having, well, the functionality of rolling wheels a little bit reduced, I think that's perfectly fine. A place where Aviation 400, however, could improve is actually the overall mold of the A330neo. I think in this case it is not quite as good as, for example, we've seen with JC Wings. It's for me a little bit too bulky, a bit too wide. There's something a little bit off with the shape overall, but it is still a very, very lovely aircraft model, and for me the addition of the beacon lights is just the cherry on the icing. So overall for me a really lovely scale 400 model where a manufacturer has attempted something new and has pulled it off really nicely. I like it when manufacturers are bold and innovative, especially of course when it then also works in real life. Now with that we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, and if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.